Hello, I am Radagast, and I guess it's now officially December 4th. I don't know. It's Sunday. It's late at night. That's why I'm a little screwed up with my dates. And this is Mystic Brew, Standing Rock and Polarity Politics. Okay, just Standing Rock. Standing Rock to me is the first world summit of humanity. And I don't make that as a hyperbolic statement. Because the reason I call it a world summit, because first of all, it's like the First Nations meet now joining up with what we'll call Second Nations. But people from all over the world are going to Standing Rock, and from all over the United States are going to Standing Rock. And now over 6,000 veterans of the United States have gone to Standing Rock. And it's the World Summit really for humanity. In many ways, there is a world war going on, and it's the war of the globalists and the psychopaths who make them up, who do not function as normal humans do, and humanity, those who actually have empathy. Without empathy, you do not operate as a human being, plain and simple. And then of course, it's Standing Rock and what do I call it? Oh, polarity politics. I should probably keep this in front of me so I don't have to look away. And what I mean by polarity politics is, again, it's divide and conquer. And so here in America, rather than having people just deciding on what's a good idea to run the country, we have different parties who kind of poach off of certain hot button issues that often have little to do with what's really good for a country. They're really pandering, but they just try to find out how can I pull this group off and represent them, and how can I pull this group off and represent them and keep them fighting amongst each other, while we enact policies that are like little Band-Aids on little wounds they have, while we run the country just the way we want to, which is toward a new world order, plain and simple. So, and the reason why the polarity politics is so insane for me is with this recent election, largely probably because of the choice of candidate of the Democrats, somebody who I consider to be clearly, and I have good perception into this, is psychopathic. All right. And and then of course there's the rhetoric that goes with a psychopath. And those of us who are listening as a human, listening for one human to communicate to another, and then you don't hear human conversation, and you actually hear anti-human conversation when you know how to look for it. And I think for the average person, it doesn't require great discernment. You just actually have to make that that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so in this particular election cycle, the chosen person that the Democrats put up was Hillary Clinton, somebody who I can consider a complete psychopath, and hence the criminal behavior that can come with psychopathic behavior. And then on the other side, you have, again, Donald Trump. Now, I didn't even bother. I couldn't really listen to much of stuff because I'm a mystic. I do live in a country. I do care what goes on, but I tend to be a little bit of an observer. It gets a little more complicated, and I really want to keep this video as short as possible for it to be succinct and maybe have a little bit of impact. And so, based on what I thought was more remedial for the country, you could say, again, I'm going to declare I did not vote. Apparently as many protesters who have been out there for the past couple of weeks didn't vote. So we have these kind of two camps, and on one side you have, I guess, the party that lost. They're kind of in a little grieving phase, acting out in certain cases, not in all cases. And then on the other side, you have the Trump people who tend to be celebrating right now. All right. Okay. So what I'd like to say to the people who are celebrating, we have Standing Rock going on. All right. This is a humanitarian crisis. And it's a humanitarian crisis, not just because of the rubber bullets and spraying water on people when it's freezing cold out, and therefore creating real conditions for hypothermia, as if the weather enough wasn't conditions for hypothermia. But they did put themselves there, okay? So we can't say, oh, you know, condition. No, they put themselves there because they have something that they're standing for, something that is meaningful for them. So they were allowed to put themselves in weather that is somewhat life-threatening if you don't have a place to get warm or you're not dressed enough. But throwing water on them, okay. So this, I mean, no, but they didn't go there to get water. And generally, when it's so cold that water becomes hazardous, when it does fall from the sky, it falls as snow. All right. So you can't get, you can't get drenched and then possibly die from hypothermia, or suffer repercussions, health repercussions. So I would just like to say, because I don't have no idea who listens to me, what kind of political strain. I have had spoken out a little bit positively on that. I thought the elections turned out for the better, given who we had to choose from. And all I can say is for those who are on the celebrating side, there is work to be done. Now, one of the things I really like, I really like hearing, especially when you listen to Alex Jones, if Trump goes sideways, we're going to hold his feet to the fire. Well, when it comes to Standing Rock, now again, he's not president. I mean, really, when it comes to what's going on right now, this is Obama's watch. This is on Obama's watch. He still has, 55 days more on his watch. So he has nothing he can, quote, do about it. But as we have found out with carrier staying and certain foreign leaders responding in a certain way, and even the way it seems like the different votes in Europe might go, what he says and the stance he takes are now globally important. And Standing Rock is not only a global thing, because I consider it a global summit, but of course it's an American thing. And from what I can tell now, apparently he has $2 million invested in there. I don't have to see it as a conflict of interest, because he can always just say, okay, let it slide. Okay. But anyway, to all the people who are now currently celebrating, the people who will hold Trump's feet to the fire, this is something that I hope you realize is a humanitarian crisis, and then also even a constitutional or American crisis. So this is the time, Alex Jones, I can't imagine that you listen to me. You're a hardworking guy. I can't imagine you have time really to listen to some mod whiz speak to you, all right? But if somehow, some way, I mean, this can just filter through, please, this is important, all right? This is more than important. This is an emergency. This is crucial. What's going on at Standing Rock is ugly, and it is one. I mean, Alex Jones states himself as being anti-globalist. Well, what's going on at Standing Rock is nothing more than a globalist plot, and because to me, really, it's really the globalists versus the humans. So this is a humanitarian thing. This is about humans. This is about the First Nation people. This is about honoring treaties, and on the other side, you have the anti-humans. So this is clearly a place, Alex, and people who watch that, if you happen to even watch what I do. This is a time to make sure that we're on the right side of history. And I say we, because at the time, again, I think that went well. I think the election turned out better because of who won. All right. I wasn't thrilled with the choices. Although having such a wackadoo kind of guy is such a wild card that it almost feels right for the times. And so I really want to kind of just put that out there. And the veterans are now going there. I mean, supposedly one of the big things everybody liked about Trump was he was going to stand for the veterans. Well, now the veterans are making a stand. Is Trump and the supporters going to be behind them? And as far as I'm concerned, they better. I'm trying to think if I have anything more. I really want to keep this short, but I'm really heartened by the veterans. I've been watching some really good things. All right, polarity politics. All right. So generally, let's take a really popular YouTube channel, The Young Turks. When I follow their, let's call it domestic political, or when I try to follow, because I usually can't make it through a video, there's just certain stands they take that just are not very well reasoned, very emotionally based. And anybody who's followed my videos and hear me speak on the chakras, I speak of the validity of motions. It's a data stream. It's a rich, wonderful data stream, but it does need processing. All data needs processing. It just can't be just that data and no processing, or else it really has no form and very often almost is irrelevant, other than from the fact that there's a feeling that's relevant. So the Young Turks is a program that I usually can't make it through, but who has done multiple shows on Standing Rock? The Young Turks. So some of you, but for me, what this seems like, oh, gee, well, they're so kind of boneheaded. I'm not going to say wrong. They have entitled to their opinion. They're so boneheaded on most of the stuff I hear from them, and so right on this other stuff. What creates this kind of what could almost look like cognitive dissonance is polarity politics. The fact that we have people who have kind of been fired up again by the various divisive issues, picking a team to be on, just like two football teams, and they're rooting for their team. I understand rooting for your team. But the whole thing is, to me, when it comes to domestic politics, there should really be a Team America or Team USA. And when we start having these polarity politics, we end up having two teams. That is schizophrenia. If we had three parties, it'd be multiple personality disorder. I mean, really, as a nation, we're moving forward on whatever path we pick, but it's very difficult to walk two separate paths. It's like, if you come to a fork in the road and you have two different heads and each one wants to go a different way, you have a problem. So, and I have definitely spoken on polarity and saying that the poles represent something, but in the middle, the field, that's where the action happens. Similar like with a battery, the power isn't just coming from the positive side. It actually, unless it can go to a negative side, there is no power. So the power is really between the poles. That's where the electricity happens, between what comes out and what returns. Similarly, well, God forbid I should support everything that any political party does. But again, I guess what it is there with the election, at least with the words. Again, all I can do is go with what the narrative is. The narrative from the Trump people is anti-globalist. So that to me means, anti-global means pro-human. It's very hard for me not to be pro-human as a human. But I'm hearing really nothing to very little about this. Probably the most important thing happening on the American continent right now, and that is Standing Rock. Mary Beth, whose phone calls and stuff I use to make the Standing Rock videos going back, a couple of weeks now, has returned from her second trip. She's back in her nice warm home. She misses being there. She misses being there because as meaningful as her husband and her grandchildren are, and they are very meaningful, the richness, the camaraderie, the common purpose for something that really, really is so important, and the understanding that water is life, and that we're running out of it. And globalists like Nestle's are very happy to sell us water because they think the right to water is not there. We do not have a right to water, even though God put the water for us to use. All right. So there's the other way where globalists show that they're not human, because they're anti-God. And since God created humans, if you're anti-God, you're also anti-human. You can, you just can't have it both ways. And people might say, well, my whiz, or Radagast, didn't God create them too? Yes, but we do have free choice. And there, I want to keep this short, so I don't want to get into all kinds of like archontic viral type infections and things like that that affect people. And I'm not talking about any kinds of extermination for the globalists. There's no need to do it. All you have to do is recognize them. There's how many billion humans, and maybe, an insignificant portion of globalists. So there's no need for anything draconian. There just needs to be recognition. And there is a war on this. There is a global war, and it's between the globalists and human beings. So I just really, I kind of making this because I want to bring some attention to Standing Rock. I want anybody who follows anything I say to know that Standing Rock is probably the most important thing in front of me. I just can't talk about it always. I don't have the fresh updates that I did from Mary Beth. Anybody can type Standing Rock into the YouTube search engine and have far more on-site reporting on this than I can give you here. And my opinion about Standing Rock has already been given. So I just really wanted to make a quick thing, drawing attention to Standing Rock, applauding the veterans who have gone there to stand with Standing Rock, and to bring some legitimacy. When Mary Beth was there, they were on a bridge that was going to be attacked. And fortunately, Mary Beth and other white grandmothers decided to put themselves between the police and other hired muscle and the Native Americans. And even though they were threatening and they had geared up that LRAD, sound cannon, because when they power it up, it makes a beeping noise. So she knew they were at least powering it up. And usually you don't power up something you don't intend to use. But the white grandmothers stood there, and they decided not to attack. And when she went back and she was embraced, oh, you're my, the Native people were embracing her, so you're my white angel. So now we have veterans. And of course, again, since the veterans are from the United States, and the United States still, I think, has a majority of white people. Needless to say, a good portion of the vets are white. But the most important thing is they're veterans. And they come with some serious cred or credentials to a lot of the people. A lot of the hired people, the people who aren't police, are in fact the kind of ex-vets who go work for, Blackwater, Z Academy, and I'm quite sure there are any number of security firms that have people who were trained to be killers and now don't know exactly what to do with themselves. But the beautiful thing is, these other veterans were also trained to be killers, and they seem to have realized that there's one state of mind for the battlefield and another state of mind when you're in your community. So I just want to applaud the veterans. I want to applaud grandmothers of Gaia, of who Mary Beth is there. I would like to, also she represents Global Mission of Peace. I just give a shout out to the ambassador. You might have, the ambassador to me, he's the ambassador of Global Mission of Peace, and I'm just going to put it there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. But who is also standing with us, and when he does speak to us, and we're Global Mission of Peace, and he is somebody who means something to us. He did bring us together, actually, so that's kind of important. He has stood up, and he is completely behind what we're doing at Standing Rock, and that Global Mission of Peace has been represented there. And this is just, and I can feel the connections being made, and the new paradigm production that I consider myself, to be the pusher of, because if somebody else coined the phrase, then fine. But I remember it came to me, my friend said, that's what you need to have as your project. And so it has been my project. And so I'm just, to me, part of the new paradigm production is occurring at this first World Summit of Human Beings, or Anthropines, as that we are currently calling Standing Rock. So I'm going to wrap it up right there. I mean, I just really want to talk about the insanity of polarity politics, how a current polarization that is kind of represented very well by a group called the Young Turks. I'm seeing give brilliant time to this. Matter of fact, I just watched an interview by Jimmy Dore, who is one of the Young Turks, talking to a vet, and it was just so uplifting. And you heard such lucid speaking about something important. And then when I go into InfoWars, or maybe some other people who speak in that spectrum, like Stephen Molyneux, Sargon of Akkad, who's kind of a really wicked wit humorist, I guess from a conservative point. There's Standing Rock doesn't exist on there. I've heard a little bit of it is being mentioned on InfoWars. Kudos to you, Alex, but you need this needs to be cranked up. This is really what's matter. The election is over. Things will eventually settle in, and if they don't settle in, we can get back to them. But right now, Standing Rock is happening. It's crucial. December 5th is some kind of deadline. Fortunately, General Wesley Clark Jr., not General Wesley Clark Jr., and at least 6,000 vets have showed up there to put their flesh on the line. Matter of fact, the Jimmy Dore show starts with, well, what happens if they start, shooting you? He goes, I keep on, with the rubber bullets or concussion grenading. He goes, I keep on walking forward. Because what's that mean? He goes, they'll have to kill me to stop me. All right. And this is from a veteran. So anyway, I want to draw attention. I want everybody to know that Standing Rock is hugely important to me. And I think it's also part of new paradigm production. Not for me. I mean, again, I'm trying to make it happen. And that means when I see it happening, I want to feed energy to it so it does happen. Thank you all for listening. God bless you all. Don't forget Standing Rock. Look, I don't know who to direct you. When Mary Beth was there, and people were taking donations, I knew that every penny plus some of her own pennies were going to that. I know some of the collectors are doing due diligence, but I know firsthand, okay, or I should say secondhand, that there's some people who collected money for the vets, suddenly got the money came in so good they decided to quit their job and maybe just keep the money. And this is probably an isolated instance, but no isolated instance is the only isolated instance. So I'm trying to, again, not create polarity, but you have to be sure, if you really want to help Standing Rock, try and find a vetted source to donate to it. But if you can donate, please donate to it. Again, I'll say thank you again. I'll say God bless you again, because God's blessings are always a good thing. Thank you.